I got a Pokemon for the Catch Cup that no one else had access to this season. You heard correctly, today I am going to be using a Pokemon that wasn't spawning in the wild at all, was not in research, wasn't in GBL rewards, and was not in eggs. That's right, we are going to be using Greninja. I probably hyped this up more than I should have on Twitter. I think everyone was expecting me to have, I don't know, like a Registeel or an Ultra Beast. But I did my research before making this video, and apparently Froakie was not available at all this season. Now, I could be wrong, I might have missed something, but to my knowledge, I checked all the resources I could. Froakie wasn't available in the wild anywhere, there weren't any events where Froakie was spawning, and Froakie wasn't available in any of the field research tasks this season. It also wasn't hatching from any of the eggs, and it wasn't in GBL rewards, so I'm pretty confident that Froakie wasn't available in Pokemon Go this season. So you're probably wondering how I got this Froakie. I mean, it wasn't spawning anywhere. How could I get that? Did I go back in time? Well, no. My brother doesn't play Pokemon Go that often, and he had a bunch of research stacked from last season. And guess what he had on top of that stack? Some Froakies from Community Day research saved. So I took one. Don't worry, I gave him something nice for it. I gave him a Frillish. I have another very special Pokemon that I'm also using in this video. I caught a shiny Bellsprout, and I caught it during the Rocket event, so I was able to TM Frustration off of it. Now, I was thinking if I should pair it with the Greninja and if I should use Weeping Bell or Victory Bell. I decided in the end that I was going to go for Weeping Bell. Just, you know, to make things a little more interesting. So we have a Spice Pick on our team, sort of. And also this Weeping Bell went up to a nicer CP than the Victory Bell. That's why I went with it. However, it cost me so much Stardust. Around 310 with the second move. So yeah, there's that. Also, this video cost me 2 Elite TMs. I decided that I wanted to give this Weeping Bell Razor Leaf, and Razor Leaf is unfortunately a legacy move for Weeping Bell, so I can't get it with normal TMs. I had to use that Elite Fast TM. And as for Greninja, I was planning on running it at first with Surf and Night Slash because the one I got was really bad IV. I only got to trade one to my account because we transferred the rest of them before I realized that it could be good for Catch Cup and that it wasn't spawning this season. So I really didn't want to invest any resources into the one I got, but I told myself, just do it for the content. You have a lot of Elite Charge TMs, just do it. So I ended up Elite Charge TMing the Hydro Cannon onto this Greninja. You see here, I really hesitated. I was like, do I really need it? Do I really need it? And then I did it. So yeah, we did it for the content. Maybe leave a like on this video for my resources. But you guys, I am so excited to show you my battles because we got some amazing wins with Greninja in the Catch Cup. Greninja is so strong in this cup, especially against Clodsire. So the team I ended up building was Greninja on the lead with Shadow Weeping Bell in the back and Clodsire on the safe swap. Let's get into these battles. These are going to be so amazing. Up first, we have a really great lead of Jellicent into our Greninja. My opponent is going to swap into Umbreon. Now, I'm not comfortable swapping into one of my back Pokemon in case this Umbreon is running Psychic, so I decide to stay in with Greninja. Unfortunately, it is running Last Resort and it hits us for neutral, and because Greninja is so squishy and mine is garbage IVs, I take so much damage and our Greninja is very low now. And it turns out that my opponent actually doesn't have the best answer to Greninja on their team, so I kind of wish I shielded that Last Resort. But I managed to bait with Night Slash and take a shield from the Gligar, and I immediately swap into my Weeping Bell because I think I can Razor Leaf it down completely and shield twice. So I go ahead and I shield twice. The Gligar is running Night Slash, however they swap out to Jellicent and I'm not able to take out the Gligar, and that could be problematic for my Clodsire because Gligar, while it's in the red, Clodsire is going to be doing absolutely no damage with the Poison Stings. Also, I wasn't able to take the Jellicent out with the Weeping Bell. It's still in the yellow. I just have to hit it with an Earthquake. But my opponent manages to catch it on the Gligar, which I'm okay with. I was over farming because I needed 2 moves anyways, I needed 1 to take out the Gligar and 1 to take out the Jellicent. So it works out in the end. We are able to outpace the Jellicent to the Earthquake, and we take that first win. Moving on to the next match, we are going to be seeing a terrible lead of Credilli into our Greninja. I'm going to immediately swap into Weeping Bell. I know I said that our safe swap is Clodsire, but I thought in this situation I could swap in Weeping Bell. And then for some reason, my opponent brings in Jellicent with Bubble. Interesting choice. They go for a Shadow Ball, but of course I'm going to shield that. I also shielded the Rock Slide from Credilli, so I don't have any shields left, but the Credilli is in the red, and here I do decide to farm it down with the Greninja because I think Greninja with energy could be very threatening to whatever my opponent has in the back. And my opponent has a Quagsire in the back. This is really bad for Clodsire. I'm going to go ahead and take his last shield with the second Hydro Cannon that I throw. The first one went through and it did so much damage to this Quagsire. This is exactly why I should be running Hydro Cannon and not Surf. And then I'm going to bring in my Clodsire, and I know I can survive 2 Mud Bombs and I can reach an Earthquake before the Quagsire can reach a third move. And we take them out. GG's to my opponent. Moving on to the next match, we are going to be seeing a Golisopod on the lead. Now, I immediately swap into Weeping Bell, although I could have stayed in that matchup with my Greninja. I draw a Steelix, and that's not great for Weeping Bell. I would have preferred if this was aligned with my Clodsire, so I definitely should have played it where I stayed in with Greninja against the Golisopod, and I tried to win the lead. I could have done that. I don't invest any shields into Weeping Bell. Instead, I am going to bring my Greninja and farm down the Steelix completely and have a ton of energy that I can throw against Golisopod. And I throw a Night Slash and we get a boost, and this is amazing for us. I'm going to go ahead and shield my Greninja, reach a second Night Slash, and throw it on good timing, of course, and my opponent lets it go. Now they bring in Lantern, and I'm going to go ahead and throw a boosted Night Slash, and we take a shield, which is really good for Clodsire. Now I'm going to immediately swap out because I don't want my opponent farming down Greninja and having a lot of energy for my Clodsire. They need 4 Surfs, 1 to take out our final shield, and then 3 to take out Clodsire because Clodsire is very tanky. I'm going to go immediately for the Earthquake, and my opponent decides not to shield it. They probably were calling a bait. And then I can go straight Sludge Bomb, and I am going to outpace my opponent to 2 Sludge Bombs before they can reach 2 more Surfs. GG's to my opponent. On to the next match, we are going to be seeing a Pidgeot lead, which is absolutely horrible for my backline, so I have to try to take it out with this Greninja. Thankfully, the first Hydro Cannon lands, and I'm going to go ahead and shield whatever this is, even if it's a Feather Dance. I have to keep this Greninja alive to deal with this Pidgeot, because like I said, my backline isn't going to be dealing with it too well. Now my opponent swaps in Lickitung, and I decide to chip it before I swap into Clodsire. I do, however, farm up a little bit of energy on the Greninja so that I could have energy stored for the Pidgeot when it comes back in. Now they did swap out with a Feather Dance on the Pidgeot as well. My opponent is going for these neutral body slams against my Clodsire, and I'm going to go for an Earthquake, but it doesn't do nearly as much damage as I thought it was going to do. Clodsire's damage is so bad, but we do manage to land the Earthquake, and then we reach a Sludge Bomb, and I overfarm a little bit to have some energy for Pidgeot because I want to throw the Sludge Bomb and get their final shield out of the way or take them out. And then my opponent has a Lantern in the back. GG's to my opponent. We are going to be able to take that win. On to the next match, we are going to be seeing a terrible lead of Obstagoon, and I misplay this game really badly. I'm going to go ahead and safe swap Clodsire, and then my opponent brings in Jellicent. So we are very, very hard countered in this game. Yeah, we're going to go for this Earthquake against this Jellicent, and I am going to be able to reach a second because whatever my opponent is going to throw here is not going to KO. I'm going to go for a second Earthquake, and my opponent no shields and lets their Jellicent go. However, this Obstagoon now has so much energy, and Weeping Bell, as you can see, is very squishy. That Night Slash did a ton of damage. Now my opponent is going to bring in a Steelix, and I'm going to go ahead and shield the Breaking Swipe. Bring in my Greninja against the Steelix, going to go for these Hydro Cannons, and thankfully he doesn't shield. However, I realize what my opponent is trying to do here. They are planning to win the game with Obstagoon. They go ahead and farm down my Greninja, and I only have 1 shield left and my opponent has 2 moves, so there's no point shielding anything. My opponent takes the win there, but we were pretty hard countered. That was 4 wins in that first set. You can already see why Greninja is such a strong pick for the Catch Cup. Unfortunately, it wasn't spawning. I'm sorry guys, I feel so evil. But also, grass types are really strong right now because so many Pokemon are weak to grass in this cup. Moving on to the first game of the next set, we are going to be seeing a Clodsire lead, another amazing lead for our Greninja. My opponent is going to be swapping into a Vikavolt, and I immediately swap into my Clodsire, and my opponent top lefts. I'm sorry, opponent. I feel bad for that one. But I get hit with instant karma in the next game because I see an Arktobax on the lead, and this Pokemon is the one Pokemon, this one and Dragonair actually, and Dragonite. I saw a few Dragonites. These Dragon types absolutely destroy my team. Now I attempt to catch a Dragon Claw on my Clodsire, but unfortunately my opponent builds up to the Avalanche, and I'm going to go ahead and shield. But my opponent has a Palossand in the back, and if I knew they had Palossand in the back, I would not have shielded the Avalanche. These Scorching Sands are going to be enough to take out my Clodsire, but not without taking an Earthquake on their Palossand first. Now I'm going to bring in Greninja, but I can't farm it down completely because it could reach a Scorching Sands, and my Greninja is in Scorching Sands range, so I go for the Night Slash. I'm expecting my opponent to bring back in their Arktobax, but they don't. They bring in Medicham, and this is basically game over for us. I go ahead and I invest my final shield into my Weeping Bell, and this Seed Bomb is not going to land. My opponent still has 2 shields for this Medicham. I don't know why I'm still staying in this match. I should just top left and save all our time, but, you know, I was insisting on staying. I don't know why. Clearly it was a lost match. Okay, finally it's over. But moving on to the next game, we are going to be seeing a Pelipper on the lead. Now, Greninja is my best answer to Pelipper, I think, on this team. Weeping Bell is going to be taking super effective from the wing attacks, so what I can do is I can stay in this matchup and go for these Night Slashes. Now, I go ahead and shield, but this is an obvious Weather Ball bait. But I shield anyway. I know my opponent is probably going to start going for Weather Ball only because Greninja is very squishy. They go for a Weather Ball here, and yeah, it does so much damage, so I kind of had to shield that first Weather Ball anyways. They invest both shields into their Pelipper, which I'm okay with, and then they swap in a Quagsire, and I'm immediately going to bring in my Weeping Bell. Gonna take them out with the Razor Leafs. Unfortunately, I do shield an Aqua Tail. I did not have to shield that, and I tried to catch the Sludge Bomb on my Clodsire, but I wasn't successful, and I survived with very little HP on my Weeping Bell. I managed to bank a move and swap out, and this Clodsire is only running poison moves. They are running Acid Spray and Sludge Bomb, so I build up to the Earthquake. I overfarm because I need some energy for the Pelipper, and then I am able to reach a Sludge Bomb before the Pelipper throws a move on my Quagsire, and we take them out. GG's to my opponent. Moving on to the next match, we are going to be seeing a terrible lead of Medicham into our Greninja. I'm going to immediately swap into Weeping Bell, and my opponent brings in a Shadow Dragonair. And these first 2 Pokemon basically destroy my entire team. Unfortunate, you can't win them all. Moving on to the next match. Oh, my opponent is expert and he's so close to legend. Okay, maybe I'll give him the win. We'll see. On the lead, we're going to be seeing Crocalor, which is so spicy. Unfortunate for my opponent that he has to run into our Greninja. And then they safe swap Quagsire, and I have a Razor Leafer in the back. Oh no! My opponent is running Spice, and I am absolutely ruining all of his fun. My opponent is going to bring back in Crocalor and farm down the Weeping Bell. I'm going to bring in Greninja now and shield because I have a feeling this has access to Disarming Voice. I actually don't know what it has access to, but I shielded just in case. I'm gonna go for this Hydro Cannon and take his first shield, and then my opponent brings in Conkeldurr. Now I am going to give them the win. I just wanted to play a little bit, but mad respect for the Spice. Man, you're still trying to get to Legend, and you're running Crocalor on the lead, and you have a Conkeldurr in the back? Opponent, I salute you, and I hope you get to Legend. Just let me land this Earthquake first. Not gonna give them the win that easily. I'm gonna take out their Conkeldurr, and then I'm going to top left before they do. I didn't want to take that win. I would feel so bad taking that win. But GG's to my opponent, and I hope you reach Legend. On to the next match, we are going to be seeing my least favorite lead, which is Arktobax. Again, I am seeing so many of these, and it absolutely wrecks my entire team. Gonna be able to land the first Night Slash, and then I'm gonna have to shield this Dragon Claw if I want to land the second Night Slash. Gonna go for the second Night Slash, and I'm expecting my opponent to shield. They always shield, and this time I just stay in. I'm going to bring in Clodsire now, and I am going to go for a Sludge Bomb on this Arktobax. Gonna shield in case it's Avalanche, but my opponent actually baits. They bait, and they also double shield this Arktobax, and my team is so weak to it. This Arktobax is just gonna wipe my entire team, isn't it? Yup. And they have Gligar in the back. Even better. Even better. GG's. But moving on, that last match never happened. We are going to see Miss Piggy on the lead, and I'm going to go ahead and throw a Hydro Cannon, get it really low, and then I'm going to swap into Clodsire, but I forgot that this has access to Dig, and I let a Dig go, but it doesn't do that much to Clodsire, surprisingly. And then my opponent brings in Ninetales. So this is interesting. I'm able to land the Earthquake too. This is really good for us. I'm going to go ahead and let the Scorching Sands go, and then I'm going to bring in my Greninja and farm it down completely. Gonna go for this Night Slash, and they let it go, and my opponent has Skeledirge in the back. Skeledriche? Anyways, we take that win. That's 2 Pokemon in that team whose names I can't pronounce. But moving on to the next match, we're going to be seeing another person who's really close to Legend, but I can't keep giving everyone wins. If I want to get out of gatekeeping Elo, I really want to climb a little bit so that I'm not constantly gatekeeping everyone. So unfortunate for our opponent, they lead Gligar into our Greninja, and they let the Hydro Cannon go, so we basically take them out. I do shield once, however, to keep my Greninja healthy, and then my opponent brings in a Alolan Ninetales. They're going to go for a Weather Ball. I'm going to let it go because it is not effective, and this Alolan Ninetales is running Powder Snow, so I can stay in the match. Going to go ahead and take their final shield with Hydro Cannon, and then I'm going to swap into Clodsire to avoid my opponent farming down my Greninja because my entire backline is really weak to Powder Snow A9. And I only have 1 shield left, so I kind of had to swap out. We draw a Jellicent, and I have to let my Clodsire go. I'm going to save the final shield for Weeping Bell, and then I'm going to bring in my Greninja, and I am going to force my opponent to throw their energy because I can't waste the shield here. Luckily, I am able to bring back my Weeping Bell and farm the Jellicent down completely, and then I'm going to shield the Weather Ball, and we are able to take out the Alolan Ninetales. I had to bring in Greninja there so that my opponent would throw immediately and throw all of their energy, because if they reached a Shadow Ball, I wouldn't have that shield for the Weather Ball, and then I wouldn't have gotten that win. But moving on to the next match, we are going to be seeing a terrible lead of Medicham into our Greninja. Let's see if I can actually flip this match this time. I'm going to go ahead and swap into my Weeping Bell and shield the Ice Punch, and then my opponent is going to bring in a Clodsire. Gonna go for the Seed Bomb, expecting my opponent to shield, and they do, which is okay. Now I'm gonna let my Weeping Bell go, and here's my plan. I need to farm up enough energy to reach 2 Hydro Cannons on the Medicham because they were late to swap out, so they took a lot of Razor Leaf damage. If I'm able to land at least 1 Hydro Cannon on the Medicham, then I should be in a good spot. It might even take it out. So I'm gonna go for the first one. This is going to take my opponent's final shield. But I realized they're not quite in Hydro Cannon range, so I swap into my Clodsire to try to get them low, and we get them into the yellow before they swap into their Jellicent. Now I'm just going to go for these Earthquakes, which are going to be hitting for neutral against Jellicent. We managed to reach 2 Earthquakes. Let's hope it takes them out. It doesn't. My opponent is able to reach another Surf, and I really want to farm them down with Greninja to have that energy for the Hydro Cannon, so I stop tapping. I'm able to swap into Greninja before they can swap out because our switch timers are misaligned. I'm able to reach the Hydro Cannon, we land it on the Medicham, and we're able to take them out. GG's to my opponent. But on to the final match of this video, we are going to be seeing an Alolan Sandslash on the lead. Gonna go for this Hydro Cannon, and my opponent is of course going to shield because it does way too much damage to the Sandslash. And then I am also going to shield because I want to keep my Greninja healthy. If this Sandslash sees my backline, then I am in so much trouble. I have to take it out with the Greninja. gonna go for a second Hydro Cannon. Let's just hope they let it go, and they do. But then they bring in Gligar, which is terrible for my backline. I am going to take their final shield with the Hydro Cannon, and then I am immediately going to swap into my Weeping Bell. I just need it to get low enough to where a Sludge Bomb will take it out. Unfortunately, we have to say goodbye to our Weeping Bell here. And now I'm just going to swap in Clodsire and hope for the best. But my opponent immediately brings in their own Clodsire as well. But it looks like we are ahead by 1 turn, and that's going to be really good for us. That means I am going to be able to throw 2 Earthquakes onto this Clodsire before my opponent can throw a second Earthquake on us. Now they do go ahead and throw a Stone Edge here, but I am going to farm as much energy as I can because I want to reach that Sludge Bomb on the Gligar. We reach it, but it is not going to be enough to KO, so I am immediately going to swap into Greninja and Water Shuriken down. GG's to my opponent. Well played. And that gives us 4 wins in that set, and this is going to take us back above the 3000s. Hopefully soon I'll be out of gatekeeping elo. So what did we learn in this video? I learned stack a bunch of Pokemon and keep them for next season. That's what I learned. But that brings us to the end of this video. If you guys like my videos, please consider subscribing. Maybe leave a like, it helps me out so much with the algorithm. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye!